Hey everybody, Ben Pakulski, Muscle Intelligence Podcast. Welcome back. I'm currently sitting in Costa Rica, one of the world's blue zones, thinking about longevity. Rather than longevity, I'm actually framing it as extending youth. I don't know about you. I don't want to live to be 120 and not be able to do things. I want to be youthful. I want to be young, strong, vibrant, and vital, and ultimately be able to do all the things I did when I was 25, when I'm 85. So thinking about that brings up so many different conversations in my mind. And one that comes up that's really specific to really everyone who's looking to live their greatest life in a body they love is this conversation around cardio. How much, should I do any, is it important, and where does it fit? And so today, I want to give you a little bit of value today before we get into our amazing podcast with our amazing guest, talking a little bit about cardio and how I frame it in my mind. I think cardio should be one of the three foundational staples that we all train within. So what are those three staples? You've heard me say this before. Strength training and muscle building is definitely one of those three pillars. You must be doing that if you're looking to extend youth, extend that useful vitality and strength and vibrancy into any age, wherever you are right now. Strength training and muscle building must be there. Another one of the pillars is mobility and stability. You have to be able to move. You have to be able to be stable if you want to do anything ultimately, right? So building intentionally mobility and stability into your programs is vital. And the third and final one is going to be aerobic training, and ultimately something that allows your body to improve aerobic function, increase VO2 max. And there's reason for that beyond just the cardiovascular system. So we all know of the cardiovascular benefits of aerobic fitness. That's goes without saying, but there's so many additional benefits as far as improving body composition. Most people will know that, but that's just, again, another small one. The one that I really like to lean in on is my ability to recover and decrease my stress response. So ultimately increase heart rate variability. And so the more aerobically fit I am, the more resilient my body is to stress, the better my body deals with any type of impending stressful events, any type of stressful stimulus. And that could be something as little as training. My body becomes exponentially more efficient and effective at dealing with these stressors, regardless of what type the stressor is. So as we lean into living our greatest life in a body we love, my suggestion to all of you out there is spend a fair amount of time, we'll say, in zone 2 training, what's called zone 2 training. What that means, and the way that I'll describe that to you without getting into scientific terms, is staying in a high level of aerobic training that allows you to be nasal only with your breathing. Now that's different for everybody, right? What's the highest level of effort you can exert over 30 to 60 minutes, and stay nasal only with your breath? That's very, very important as far as a prerequisite. So my suggestion is get at least, minimum 30 minutes twice a week. You can get up to 60 minutes 3 times a week. Sometimes people will do 60 minutes or more 5 times a week, especially if you're trying to improve. So in the beginning, getting there can feel hard. It takes a little more effort. It's like trudging through mud is my metaphor, right? Sometimes in the beginning when you start something, it's like you're walking through neck deep mud. But once you start getting better and better at the skill and the consistency, what happens is the mud starts to dry up and you start to walk above it. It's almost like you're floating and you're hovering. And that's how I want you guys to frame cardiovascular fitness in your mind. In the beginning, it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but eventually you can probably get by with 2 sessions a week from 40 to 60 minutes and still maintain that really good aerobic fitness and that high VO2 max. And ultimately what you're doing there is you're allowing your body to produce energy more efficiently, more effectively, increasing your recovery time between sets and between workouts. So now you can increase the effectiveness and the efficiency of your workouts and ultimately burn more fat at rest also. That sounds like a really, really valuable tool now, doesn't it? Instead of saying, cardio burns muscle or breaks down muscle, which in my eyes is absolutely not true unless it's too much, or if you're in a caloric deficit, that may be the case. So if you're someone who's in a constant caloric deficit, that's something to consider. However, there's way more value to being a very aerobically fit in this zone 2 level. Never going into that mouth breathing. It's simply too hard. It's unnecessary. I mean, unless you're training sport specific or unless you're trying to do some high intensity stuff, it's very different. Those are just simply different energy systems. We want to improve our aerobic efficiency, aerobic energy production. So anyways, hopefully that was valuable for you. It gives you a little bit of context on how you can apply aerobic fitness most effectively into your life. Today's guest, Singerman, is a very good friend of mine who's taken a small supplement company years ago and made an absolute empire. And I dig into his brilliant mind and how he did it, how he created a culture, how he created a brand, and ultimately how he created one of the most prolific brands that exists right now in the entire fitness industry. Aaron is an incredibly successful man, but also a great father who has tremendous values. And I really resonate with some of the conversation today. So thank you very much to Aaron Singerman for joining me on the podcast and talking about how he built his empire and how he manages to maintain balance. And is balance even a thing? And we talk a lot about that. And Aaron has been so gracious as to offer us a discount for his amazing company, and a very, very generous discount. If you head over to redcon1.com, you can use the code PAK, P-A-K, 30 for 30% off all of his amazing products. These are high performance products, really well designed, efficaciously dosed to fuel your performance. Some of the things that I've used in the past are his pre-workout, his RTDs, ready to drink protein shakes. And, really all of his products have been suggested to be really, really great. And, truthfully, I haven't dived into all of them yet, but if it sounds like some of you guys would be interested in, these are high performance products. And he's got one of the biggest companies in the world right now. And I won't give you the valuation dollar-wise, but it is exceptional. And that speaks volumes about not only the quality of the products, but the integrity of the brand. So without further ado, from me, guys, enjoy the podcast with Aaron Singerman. Listen all the way to the end. I've got some more special surprises for you at the end. Aaron Singerman, welcome to the podcast.
Ben, thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. Every time I see you post about the podcast, I'm like, one of these days, Ben is going to invite me to do
it's honestly, man, I respect you a huge amount, and I've been friends for a long time. I was thinking about it today. It's like maybe 2011 when we started kind of becoming friends. You spent some time in Tampa, and it was before you'd even started your first business. You can choose to mention the name of it or not, but I want to kind of start there because I know you entered a previous business which you have either still owned or exited, and I kind of want to start there. It's like, as we've evolved, it's now a massive company that you're running, which we'll talk about a lot. The lessons that came from that first business. And I think a lot of people, see you now and like, oh, he's crushing it and his business is growing so fast. But I was there before that business. And even to hear you talk about Redcon 1 before it started, it was all interesting. And you were so excited about the mission and the message. And so I'd love to just kind of dissect that, maybe even before Redcon, what did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So me and you met, I think in 2010 or 11. I mean, we may have met at shows and stuff before then, but we actually started becoming friends. And me and Darielle, my wife, I think we were there before we were married. So
yeah, when did you meet Darielle?
Met Darielle at Junior Nationals in 2010. And 2010.
So I met you before that because I remember when you met her.
Yes, yep. That's right. And that's right. Me and you met at shows along the way. I mean, your first pro show was what, 2008? 2009. So we probably got right around then. Because I was covering the shows for RX Muscle. So no doubt about it. Whatever show you did, other than a show in Canada, I was there at the show covering the show and with Dave Palumbo. So it is interesting, right? Because we met way before I started Blackstone Labs, the company that kind of led me towards this direction. And I've been fortunate enough to start a lot of supplement companies. I owned one with Daniel and Bailey and Rob Bailey called Run Everything. I owned Prime Nutrition with my previous partner from Blackstone. I owned Iron Addicts brand with CT Fletcher. I owned Dynamic Muscle with Kai Green. And I'm sure I'm probably forgetting some. So along the way, I've done a bunch. But that kind of process began with Dave Palumbo when I met you. And I was covering the world of bodybuilding, kind of like Bob Costas' assistant, basically. Dave Palumbo. It's a pretty good, kind analogy for Dave Palumbo, calling him Bob Costas. But we traveled the world and covered the world of bodybuilding. And along the way, my passion has always been bodybuilding and the fitness industry. And I discovered, as pretty much everybody does in bodybuilding, there's not a whole lot of money. I was really, really happy to be doing it. I was happy to pay my bills following, my passion, because obviously I didn't have the genetics to be a professional bodybuilder like you. It wouldn't have happened no matter what I could have done. But as much as I loved it, I wanted to be part of it. And I was able to work my way in through the media side. But then when we got married, Daryl and I got married, and we were pregnant in Tampa, but we ended up moving to Boca Raton. At the time, I got a chance to train with you a bunch of times, and get my ass totally kicked. We trained every body part except for legs. I avoided training legs with you. I knew better than that. But we trained a bunch. And when I did move to Boca, when Daria was towards the end of her pregnancy, I realized that this was not going to be a living or career path that I could follow and provide for a family the way that I wanted to. And I didn't grow up poor by any means, but I also didn't grow up wealthy by any means. I didn't really even see much success like that. I wasn't around it in New Orleans, Louisiana. My surroundings were okay, but I never really had that aspiration. A lot of people said, well, did you always know you were going to be successful? Did you know you were going to be? The truth is, I didn't really know that I wanted to be. I didn't care. I felt really lucky to be following my passion, paying the bills. But then when she got pregnant, I realized, wow, like this is not going to be enough. I'm not going to be able to make 60 grand a year and provide the way that I want for a family. And quickly, I looked around the world of bodybuilding and fitness and saw that supplements were the way to go, that there was money in that I still loved it. I was still part of the industry. And that kind of led me to starting my first company, Blackstone Labs.
Yeah. And so I remember you and I had a conversation prior to starting Blackstone, and you were so dead set on it, man. You were committed, and you guys really did do some good stuff. And again, you don't have to go into details of what you did there, but what I'm curious about is there's a lot of people out there starting businesses. I get a lot of people who are aspiring coaches, people who are aspiring entrepreneurs who follow the podcast. And there's universal business lessons to be pulled out of your first business. And I wouldn't say it was a failure by any stretch. You did relatively well. But I'm curious if you have anything that stands out as like some of the big lessons you pulled out of it, and you can go, hey, this is the mistakes we made, or here's things we did really well.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so compared to where we're at now with Raycon, it obviously pales in comparison. It's a tiny. We're doing in a month in revenue with that company did in our very best year. But that being said, we were the 27th fastest growing company in the Inc. 500. I felt like, we were setting the world on fire, in the business. It's very profitable. It was mostly all direct to consumer. And when we started the business, the orders, social media also wasn't anything like it is today. We were really ahead of the time on social media. We were heavily promoting the brand and the products. And the big thing was the type of products we had, which was kind of the hardcore products, really had no face. There was no personalization in the business. Really not that much in supplements in general, but definitely not in the type of like hardcore bodybuilding supplements. So having me and PJ get in front of it, my old business partner, getting in front of the products helped a lot. And so I very distinctly remember, packaging, because we packaged all the products ourselves, like package them up, put them in envelopes, and then brought them to the post office. And I remember the day that we realized that we didn't have to physically bring them, that they would actually come get them, that was like a eureka moment. So to give you an idea of how sophisticated we were in business, like that's where we were at. But somehow we were getting enough orders that we filled up a garbage bag every day. And then it became 2 garbage bags and 3 garbage bags. And somewhere along the line, we realized that they would actually come pick it up for us. But it was a really exciting time in that beginning. And the biggest stuff that I learned, because obviously this business ended up leaving. It was a big explosion of kind of it was a partnership dispute, basically. And then kind of like a divorce between 2 business partners. Divorce is the best way to describe how it ended. And it wasn't pleasant. And it was a big explosion. But along the way, the things that I learned, number one, is for sure, make sure if you're going to get a business partner that that you guys work together well, have defined different roles so that ego doesn't get in the way. Make sure that you even need a business partner. That's one of the things I tell people, like, if you have a business partner, what is it going to accomplish? How do they complement each other? Maybe one guy has money and you don't. That's cool. Now you have 2 things. Maybe you have marketing skill and that person is a great operator of the business, or maybe has artistic skill or a website. There has to be some complementary thing. You can't both be thinking you're going to do the same thing. And for me, with us, we had kind of a role that was overlapping, and it ended up being a bigger and bigger and bigger problem. But I think finding that business partner, making sure you need one in the first place and it's the right person, is a big deal from the very beginning. I mean, that's one lesson. The other thing that I would tell you right from the beginning is when you're starting a business, you need to make sure that you have a differentiating factor. How are you different than your competitors? I have people all the time like, I want to start a t-shirt company. Like, well, why? Like, what are you going to do different? why aren't they going to buy my Raycon shirt? Why are they going to buy your shirt? What's the reason? How are you going to differentiate yourself from the competition? And if the answer is we're just going to make cool shirts, well, good luck, man. There's a million people making these shirts. You have to realize, think, what is your thing that makes you different from every other t-shirt company or whatever company that might be? And a lot of times people don't have that answer. They're just like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing as everybody else does. Well, good luck. That's a very difficult thing. So you have to find your niche and be prepared to figure out a way to differentiate yourself from the competition.
I remember when you came to me and mentioned that you had an idea. You didn't even tell me what the idea was, but you were ecstatic about the idea. You're like, this is a very good idea. I know it's going to do very, very well. How did you come up with the idea for Raycon?
So one thing I'll say, because you brought it up unintentionally, is that I have this thing that I realize is really unusual about myself. I didn't know it back then. But I have this kind of unshakable confidence that I'm gonna win, and it's definitely not arrogance, because I don't feel arrogant, but I don't feel like overly confident where it's like some kind of like, oh, I'm the best or whatever. Yeah. It's just so when I have an idea, something about me that's different is I get really excited about it, and I go all in, and not only do I execute it, but I follow through. And as I've gotten older and been around more people, I realize how rare that is, because everybody has good ideas. I'm sure everybody listening has had a good idea, and they go, man, that's a great idea. And they go, oh, too much work, or, oh, I'm going to do it. And they go in the middle, they go, oh, never mind. Right. Somebody
else tells them it's not a good idea, and they lose confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. It happens all the time. So for me, how I told you with Raycon, I felt that same way with lots of things, and I'm not always right, but for some reason I seem to be able to forget the times that I'm wrong. It's just gone. I have the same thing with holding grudges or whatever. I'm so bad at it where it's almost a character defect, where somebody will do me wrong, or I'll be mad about something, and then I just seems to just go away. And same thing with, it's a good quality, except if you keep getting screwed over and over again. Right. Which that's why I have Eduardo, who hangs around me all the time, and my wife to tell me that Eduardo literally starts off hating everyone automatically. So he's the exact opposite of me. You meet him and he thinks that you're the worst. And then along the way, you may earn points and he may end up liking you or trusting you. Very rare. So it's good to have that counterbalance. Eduardo is start off as my assistant, as you know, and is now chief of staff here at Raycon. So he just doesn't believe anybody's good until you prove that you're good. So he's literally, somebody walks in, tells you, oh, I've done this. He'll tell me, yeah, he sucks. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then the person earns their way, hopefully. But that seemed, whatever characteristic or genetic thing it is with me that automatically moves past any kind of negative feelings. I don't know if it's a protection mechanism or where that came from. That same thing is in self-belief. So I don't really have, we started this gym in Nashville that opens May 22nd. And when I decided that I was going to do it, it happened really all of a sudden. We were in there working out. Taylor, our main guy for procurement and logistics, and my wife came the next day. And when I was in there, I was like, this gym is perfect. I'm going to buy this gym. And they're like, gym's kind of a dump. And I'm like, that's good. Nobody's here, but it has the bones of a great gym. It just needs some love, some new equipment. And then the gym went out of business the next day, just by chance. And I'm like, that's it. I'm buying the gym, taking it over. It's meant to be. And I did, and we made a deal, and I took it over, and we've been spending money and time and effort rebuilding it, basically. And it opens up next month. There's a lot of people here that were like, what the fuck are you doing? They're like, you're not busy enough. Why do you care about this gym? This gym sucks. It's a waste of time. Even Eric Hart, who's the president here at Raycon, who is a great friend and a very valuable team member, the most valuable team member. He was like, I don't know if this is such a good idea. Do we really want another gym? And the truth of the matter is, I never even questioned that the gym's going to be awesome and it's going to be successful and everybody's going to love it and it's going to make a lot of money. I already knew it. There was no, so I hear them saying it and I'm like, I get it. They just don't see it yet,
I think that's the key in business, man, is failure and that's the same with me in bodybuilding, man. It's failure just not an option. You may hit obstacles, you may hit barriers, you may do some things wrong, but you just keep going. And eventually it's yeah, we did it. And it's not a matter of if, it's when, and I think that is a huge lesson to be garnered.
I think it is a very, very big thing that you have to, even if I tell people sometimes maybe that you don't have that self-belief, which is probably most people, but you do have the ability to pretend. right?
Yeah.
And I know this is a big mindset thing. Mindset is a big deal with you. For me, I think that if you pretend to have it, if you have that in your head, some negativity or your self-doubt, you pretend. You have to say it out loud. It sounds kind of cheesy, but remind yourself, say it over and over again. If you know you're going to win, if you believe it, if you say it enough, if you internally tell yourself, and in those self-doubt moments, if there's something with telling you, I'm going to lose, this is not going to work, you change it, right? You do it enough, and then all of a sudden, it's reality.
Well, I think where it breaks down for most people is maybe even in childhood, or maybe it's in adulthood, where you start something and then it's kind of going hard, so you change. And then it's okay for you to change. Whereas I think with yourself, it sounds like you're just like, well, no, I'm all in on this. Like, I'm going to go until it succeeds no matter what. It's not like, oh, we're not doing so well in this, let's close it down and start something else. And you've lost that investment. You've lost that confidence builder. So you feel a little bit of that resistance and you go, okay, we just need to double down a little bit or bring in a new resource. And there's also something to be said for the reality that you do have resources now, and not everyone goes, oh, I don't have that money. Yeah, but at some point you didn't, right? And so let's talk about, coming back to the Raycon thing. Where did the idea come from?
So when I left Blackstone, once it was over and I moved on, so this is interesting. So when I left the business, I had a day for feeling sorry for myself, where I was like, man, how did this happen? I had this company that I put in, a large majority of the work that was done. At that time, I had a more of a hard time giving responsibility to other people. So I was really doing, a large majority of almost everything. And I didn't do the art. I didn't do the coding. I didn't do the front end stuff on the website, but just about everything else, from label review to QuickBooks to, formulation. I had help with formulation too. But I did a lot. I did more than one person should. If you really want to scale a business, you shouldn't be doing all these different things. You should be focusing on, the CEO of a large business shouldn't be doing sales calls and then, managing the accounting and then doing all the payables, handling all the receivables, calling people. We did a lot. So when it ended, I was like, wow, I put so much of me and my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing that it almost felt like, and this is a bad analogy. Thank God I haven't experienced this, but this was like my child, and then it was gone, And so I had a day of kind of feeling sorry for myself. And then somehow I woke up the next day and I was like, screw it. I'm going to do one way better. This is going to be a positive thing. This is not a negative thing. It gives me an opportunity to start over. I always liked, I forget the name of the movie, but I always liked this movie where the guy gets to go back to high school again. And I can look it up. And he gets to go back as an adult and goes back and does high school again, knowing all the things that he knew as a adult, but going back in high school. I mean, if you're able to do that, right, you're able to, make all the right moves, you say the right things to the girls, you have confidence in yourself, you have the ability to go back and redo it. So I kind of decided this is my ability, my chance to do that, to go back and right the wrongs and take my mistakes and remove them and all the successes we had, because we had a lot, to scale those successes and to redo it in a bigger way. Yeah. So once I made that internal decision, I was full speed ahead. I called people right away. I called Eric Hart and said, hey, you want to come work for me? You need to start tomorrow, I told him. And I started calling everybody. I called Dallas McCarver, and I didn't even have a name for the company. And I said, listen, this is my idea. I want you to be the face for the bodybuilding side. I had met 2 Navy SEALs, Brandon Cruz and Ryan Bates. I told them, I want you guys to be involved. I want to make this not just about bodybuilding, but I want it to be, have something different about it. And kind of at that point in time, meeting those 2 particular guys, because they're very athletic, good looking dudes, very charismatic. And I thought, it's funny because things are a little different now, but at the time I was like, no matter if you believe you're a Democrat or Republican, everybody would agree that Navy SEALs, Special Forces guys, they're awesome, right? That it's like at the time it was kind of like a golden era in my lifetime where everybody respected the military. Everybody did, regardless of where you were. Things have changed a little bit these days, but that's where we were. So I was like, that seems like something I could play into, my differentiating factor, right? As we were talking about before, how can I make this brand, before it was Raycon, something that made sense on more levels? And I also really wanted to make whatever we were going to do impactful, more than just selling supplements, that we wanted to be a purpose-driven company. And so when I look back on my life, I had a moment where I was in trouble as a teenager when I was 18, and I went to court for, I got in trouble, basically legal trouble. And they said, hey, you can either go into the military or you can go to rehab. And I chose rehab, and I went to rehab, and thank God I did, because I probably wouldn't be here today doing what I'm doing. But I remember that moment and that time a lot, because it was a hard decision. Because my grandfather, both grandfathers fought in the war. My one grandfather was the only Jewish officer to hit the beach in Normandy, command a troop of guys who were very successful. He didn't talk a whole lot about it, but he was very decorated. He's a captain, and I remember seeing his uniform in his closet at his house, my grandfather's house in New Orleans on 9 Rail Street. And I remember always looking at it and thinking about all the stories he must have and all the things he did and how brave he had to be. And unfortunately, I only got a few stories from him because he didn't like to talk about it. But my other grandfather fought in Korea. And so in my mind, somehow as a kid, I always thought maybe that would be my destiny. Maybe I would do that and I'd be brave and whatever. I'd fight for our country and do cool stuff. And I used to read all the military books and so anyway, because of all that, I thought, this makes sense to me. I mean, like, I could do something with this. I feel like I'd be honoring my grandparents. It means something to me. And I thought, what a great thing to do to give back to military families somehow. And so that's really the genesis of it. And then once we started looking for names, Eduardo actually found the name. We were looking for, when you name a company, I always tell people, you want something short, right? Shorter the better, easy to remember, easy to spell. So those 3 things, I was like looking through all these synonyms of, every military term you can imagine. And he came upon Raycon 1, and I didn't know what it meant. I was like, so what's that mean? He said, it's the highest state of military preparedness or readiness. 5 would be the least in this case, and 1 is the most. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. That definitely works. Everybody wants to be prepared. Who doesn't want to be ready? And so we looked it up, and the website was for sale for $5,000. And thank God I chose to do it, because we sat there in Flex's gym. We were using the upstairs office of Flex's gym when it was still here in Boca, and sitting up there, and everybody's like staring at me, waiting for me to decide, do I want to spend the $5,000 on this URL that, because at the time, like, well, does it really matter that much? We could get raycon1.org for $10, and we could choose a different name. There's all these other names we were thinking of, and I pulled the trigger. I said, screw it. Because at the time, right, I'm paying 7 employees. We have no products. We don't have a name. I'm paying an athlete. It's doing nothing. So I'm spending all my savings. There's no revenue coming in. We don't even know when revenue is going to come in. And I was like, so this is, even though $5,000 right now doesn't seem like a whole lot, at the time, it was a very big decision because, a name, right? Nobody knows the name yet. I could have done anything. So we decided to pull the trigger on the name. And luckily, we were able to register it, which is also a big deal. Trademarking, we have, if you look at our lawyer Jay's office, you'll see the walls covered with trademarks. So getting that intellectual property and recording is a very big deal. And so we were able to get it. And so we had a name that's easy to remember, easy to spell. We had the URL, we had the trademark. Eventually, it took a little time to get it, but we had the trademark. And that was kind of off to the races, man. That was within days, me, Eric, and Eduardo sat down in my kitchen, started working on formulas, and we were off to the races, man.
That's amazing. So one of the lessons there that I'll pull out from kind of what you said about from moving from Blackstone into Raycon that I often perpetuate to people is like, sometimes you just have to put yourself into stressful situations that are going to develop your character, develop your skill and unimpeachable credentials, right? You went through this company, you may have left with some money, you may not have left with money, but you left with credentials, you left with experience that you can then apply to other things. I know personally, I've started businesses in the past where I'm like, man, I have no idea what I'm going to do with this, but I know it's going to be fun and I'm going to learn a ton. And I'm probably, if I'm enjoying it because it's fun, I'm probably going to end up leaving with a good amount of revenue, a good amount of money. And that's always been the case. It's like, to include my gym or my current business, like it's always just been, man, I love this. I'm going to learn a crap ton about business. I'm going to learn everything I need to know and let's go do it. And so you're becoming someone of value. So you and I are about the same age. All of a sudden you're 40 years old or give or take. And you're like, hey, I'm someone that can provide massive amounts of value no matter what room I enter in because I put myself in these challenging situations, put my feet to the fire. And that's, I think that's one of the greatest lessons you can apply to anybody, to include, doing a bodybuilding show. Everyone's like, yeah, I'm just going to train because I want to train. Like, man, put yourself in a stressful situation. And people often talk about whether or not you should go to university. And that's my kind of acid test, Aaron, is, and I don't know if you went to school, but like university it's not good or bad. It's like, that 4 years is densely populated obstacles and challenges. And you're developing, skills, characteristics, and credentials during that phase. And now if you would as densely populate your life otherwise, then maybe you don't need to go to university, right? If you start a business and you have these dense obstacles, then it's probably not useful for you to go to university. But if you're not someone who's going to put yourself into those intentional challenges to grow, then it may be a useful decision for you to make. That's kind of how I approach all the decisions around business. Like, do I love this? Is this going to make me someone who can provide value in business? So that's a perfect transition for us into, kind of the growth. What year did you start Redcon?
In 2016.
Okay. So it's been just coming up on 5 years. So the amount of growth that you've experienced in Redcon is kind of exponential. And I just want to maybe have you touch on some of the key principles that you've abided by personally to continue aspiring to not use obstacles as excuses, and some of the best business practices you implement on a day-to-day basis to keep you motivated to be great.
Yes. Well, I love, I'll just say quickly on the college thing. I didn't go to college and I didn't graduate high school. I got a GED in high school, but I think that I can tell you for sure that I'm actually kind of a fan of education, formal education. If my boys wanted to go to college, I have 3 little boys, as you know. If they want to go to college, I'd be 100% supportive of it. If they wanted to get an advanced degree, I'd be super supportive of it. I'd be excited for them. But for an entrepreneur out there that knows what you want to do in business, if you're intellectually curious, if you're willing to accept a lot of challenges that you put yourself under, I know that I thrive under pressure and challenges and obstacles. And I've certainly found a way to internalize obstacles and challenges as a really positive thing. I don't dread them at all. I look forward to it. And in fact, when things are going too good, I feel like almost a need to push myself harder, because I don't like to just sit back. I don't want to be the guy relaxing on the beach. I want to be the guy doing something else.
So what's that dialogue in your head? Sorry to cut you, but I want to hear like what that dialogue is in your head. So when you feel something come up and you're like, oh shoot, this is going to be an obstacle, do you have a dialogue that you go through in your brain, and how you get yourself to step into it? I think that the internal dialogue, if there were words to go along with it, is that I think that I personally feel more comfortable with challenges, because they're going to be there. They're coming, right? Nothing is good forever. There's ebbs and flows in life. And if there's an obstacle coming, then there's some way to gain value from it. I know that there's some way to gain value from it, to gain experience, to learn something new. If there's no obstacles or challenges and you're just coasting through life, what fun is that, right? That's not my idea of fun. That's not what I want to do. So if there's something that happens, like we here at Redcon, it seems like there's always some disaster constantly happening. It's crazy. If I listed off all of the disasters that have happened, but they're not really disasters. Every one of them, you could be like, oh my God, the sky's falling, this is happening, that's happening, but in reality, I look at each one of those things, and when it actually occurs, I tell myself, we're going to be fine. If I'm saying a word out loud, we're going to be fine. This is not that big a deal. All the things that I've been through in my life, this is tiny. This is nothing. It's nothing. It is not going to be a big deal. The people that are thinking that it is a big deal, and there are certainly people here. Jay, the lawyer, is paid to think everything is a crazy big deal. I tell myself, these people haven't been through what I've been through in my life. They haven't had all the obstacles. So to them, maybe it does seem like the sky's falling. But to me, it's just one more thing to pass by and conquer on the way to the next bigger thing, and there's going to be plenty of other disasters. So how do you catch yourself when you step into complacency then? So flip on the other side of that, and you're like, hey, everything's going really well. And I am, for myself, there's certainly been times of feast and certainly been times of famine. And there is definitely a time where you catch yourself going, oh, I definitely took my foot off the gas pedal here, whether it be for a day or a week. And you're like, oh, so what is your mental process, if there is one, or does that ever happen?
Well, it definitely happens occasionally. And so if I'm sitting back and I'm like, so my schedule here is very like boom, 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 boom. There's always like another thing, next thing. And so on days where there's like not like that, even because there's, I don't have there. It's been rare, very rare where I'm actually able to sit back all the way and be like, ooh, it's going too easy, right? But on the days that I don't have like a jam-packed schedule where there's constantly things going, and I have to create my own work, where I have to go, okay, what could I be doing now? Because I don't know what to do. I have nothing on my list. I don't have anything in schedule. There's no goals that I could immediately hit. And then I have to go and do something that's outside of my normal stuff. So I'm writing this book, right? You talked about it briefly. I'm writing this book on my life, and it's kind of like a cheat sheet to business success that I've experienced along the way. But it's my story. So it's using my story in terms of entertainment, but it's really a business book, I would say, to entertain somebody, but also to gain value from it. So, and I have a guy who's helping me write the book, and we're writing it together. So if I have nothing to do, like recently, I'm starting to write out stories in more detail because I'm like, oh, I don't have anything to do for an hour. I'll figure something out. And that's the kind of times when I go, man, like, feels kind of wrong to not have anything going on for this period of time and to have to find something for myself to do. It's weird. That's a weird thing for me. And when that does happen, I do feel a little uncomfortable being like, it's funny, I don't have anything to do. And some of the time when that happens, it's rare. People here at the office don't like me as much because I will walk around and be like, what are you doing? What's going on? Where are you at? What are you doing? Show me what you're doing.
Micromanaging.
And I start scaring people, apparently. Because I have all the people out there. My marketing team is beyond the glass doors of my office. And so we have about 40 people out here. And I literally will go from person to person, show me what you're doing. Where are you at? And I don't mean it to be, I'm not trying to pressure them, but I know some people, since I don't do that every day anymore. Back in the day, I used to do that all day long. So to go up to somebody who doesn't get a chance, we don't talk a whole lot. And I go, show me what you're doing. Apparently it makes people uncomfortable. I've been told.
But as it should, right? I think, as it should, they have a huge amount of respect for you. They want to do a great job for the company. And hopefully they want to work up through the company. They want to do a great job and progress up through the company. Yes.
And we've had a lot of people do that. We have a lot of success stories here at the business where people start off. We have Taylor, who I just mentioned. Taylor started at $12 an hour packing boxes almost 5 years ago, and now makes six figures and has 80 employees that are underneath him. He runs the entire pick, pack, and ship operation. He also runs the procurement and runs all of the warehouse in Tennessee. So he's doing all of that from a guy making $12 an hour to at what he was 21 at that time, to somebody who's almost 27 who, has a fiance, drives his dream car, and makes six figures, in six figures doing this job that he loves. So those kind of stories are the stories that definitely I like to think create some of the company culture here where people feel like they want that,
Awesome. You brought up the word that I wanted to transition to next is culture. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start out, have a hard time getting clarity on the roles and KPIs and expectations for employees, and then following that up with how do you get buy-in? Like, how do you get people who are actually doing their job really well, who actually believe in the mission, who actually come to you and they exceed your expectations rather than just meeting them? Because I think you've done an incredible job scaling your business up as far as the sales and as far as the employees. That's not an easy task.
Yeah. Your company culture is something that has been very important to me from the very beginning, knowing that these team members are really going to make up the success of the business. My role here is, and these days anywhere, is more like a coach and like a driving force behind the momentum of the brand, and less like I'm not actually, so like the good ideas are not all very few of the good ideas are my ideas now. Because the team is large, and so you have a lot of smart people. So my idea, I don't want to say never, but almost never is my idea the winning idea, right? Which is totally okay, which is a good thing. But the way that we have created this, I think, a few things. One, we have a town hall every month. So a town hall is when we get everybody together, whether you're a guy packing the boxes or a coder working on the app or me. And we talk about, as a group, what's going on in the business. I keep them all informed on what's happening in every part of the different facets of the business. You may say, some other business owners may say, well, why does the warehouse guy need to know about your newest, marketing thing or your new account you're in? Well, because it makes them feel bought in. They are part of a larger team doing something together. Yep. And I think that's one of the big things. The other thing we do is we do team building events. So every 8 weeks or so, it used to be more often pre-COVID. Now it's been tougher to get people together and do a big fun thing together. But we played paintball together. Most recently, rented a 180-foot boat and had a big party on the boat. Went up and down the intercoastal and catered food and drinks for everybody, which was really, really fun. We've done all kinds of cool stuff. Everybody went to the beach. We've done probably 30 different events over the last 5 years, where somebody in the sales department gets to interact and hang out. And we even do team building stuff, which sometimes sounds cheesy, but ends up being really fun, where the marketing guy gets to hang out with the sales guy, because sales guy is on the first floor, marketing guy is on the third floor. all the video and content creations on the second floor. These people are not interacting on a day-to-day basis. So it gets everybody together to, hang out. And then having the gym has been an unexpected, it wasn't part of the plan, having a gym or having it create such team unity. Everybody here gets a membership to the gym for free and gets a +1 for free. And we have a very surprising amount of people that go to the gym every day. So, you see your coworkers in the gym working out, taking their products. People here, if you were to walk around, everybody is wearing a Raycon shirt, not because they have to, because they want to. They get free apparel and free products every month, which, started off with being no big deal when you have 10 or 15 people. But when you have hundreds of people, it's a big line item. We're giving a lot of products, probably $500,000 a year easy in cost of goods that we're giving to our own employees. It's not a thing that really people do at this size of the business we are now. I mean, Eric Hart, who I mentioned before, the president of Raycon, he worked at BSN, and they didn't do that. They didn't give everybody products for free. They gave them 50% off or 40% off or something like that. To give everybody, an allotment kind of encourages that understanding of what the products are, being able to wear the apparel. Right. So there's a lot that goes into the whole team thing here. There's a lot that goes into it. And I try to foster the ability to communicate with me as much as possible. It's been, as you get bigger, that becomes more. So I used to have an open door policy. Anybody could come in. And then we had to start setting a kind of almost like a hierarchy of like, hey, this is your boss. Please go to him. Don't come here, that's the part that gets scary. When you add HR, when you add these levels of management, it changes things. And that's the thing that we've been worried about and we've been able to avoid. I don't want to change the core of the business, what made it successful, because that magic could easily go away when you create this corporate atmosphere. But on the flip side, I can't have every person coming into the office at any time they want, because it's already crazy enough to have people like back in the day, or people would come to me for everything. It would be not a tenable thing.
What's your favorite thing about Raycon?
My favorite thing about Raycon, there's a lot. There's a lot of things, and I'm very proud of it. It's part of who I am and part of the family. My kids all wear the Raycon shirts. They're all excited to come to the office during Black Friday. Asher packs. Asher's my 8-year-old, and every year he looks forward to it. And this past year, for what we give him, I pay him $1 an hour, or if he completes the whole shift, 8 hours, he gets $20. And I was very proud to see that he wanted to work double shifts. He can read, so he can do everything. He can literally do, the job. Like, I don't have to. Last year, the year before, he needed some help and we kind of did it together. This year, he did it all by himself. He worked 5 full shifts, which is pretty awesome. He brought some of his older friends to do a shift with him. And so there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot to be proud of. The stuff that makes me the most proud that we do is the charitable giving stuff, changing people's lives with that. And then the reaction so we just went to FitCon, so this is on kind of top of mind for me. We haven't gone to any fitness expo in a while. There was no Arnold last year. The Olympia was, pretty minor. We didn't do any other major expos in well over a year. So to go to FitCon in Dallas to support, our friend Rob Bailey and Dana, to go there and to see the amount of people wearing the Raycon shirts, without exaggeration, it was probably 1,000 people walking around wearing Raycon shirts. And they're coming up to the booth and buying products and are so excited and taking pictures with me, which they don't even know my name, a lot of them. They're just like, oh, you're the Raycon guy. And they want to take a picture. And it's like, they're not, it's past Kai Green. It's past Robert Oberst. It's past me. It's the brand that they're excited about. And the amount of people that come up and say, how it helped me lose weight, or, one of the things that I hear all the time that we're not really able to advertise is the amount of people that take like the MRE powder instead of Ensure or something, so their mother or their grandmother or cancer patients that's saying that take this product because they can't eat any food. Right. You hear a lot of stories like that where you're like, damn, it's crazy. Like, here we are I thought we were just making cool products to get your muscles big. And then there's all these people that it affected and changed their life in a positive way. So that kind of stuff is the most meaningful.
That's awesome. Yep.
That's the biggest stuff.
So, man, one thing that I think would help a lot of people if we could dig into is your paradigm around money. You and I, last time we met and spent some time together, we talked a little bit about how, like, one of the things that drives you is like how I want to make life-changing money. I want to make cross-generational wealth, and which you're obviously well on your way to doing. And there's other people out there who maybe they say they don't want to make money, or maybe they don't want to make money. And I'm curious, just like, how you frame money in your mind.
Mm-hmm. So money for me equals freedom. So, and a lot of people say that, and the way that I mean it is that it allows me to do or continues to allow me to do more and more of the things I want to do when I want to do it. And it allows me to not do the things that I don't want to do. And so the more you get into this mindset, the better off, in my mind, life becomes. It doesn't mean like being retired or sitting on the beach, because that's not what I want to do anyway. But it will let me not do laundry. If I need to get a haircut, I'm not going there coming to me, right? If I need to go to a trip, I can get on my plane, get on it and go there. I can do it instantly. I don't have to wait in line or whatever, because it's giving me more time. Because time is the thing that is you can't buy. You could be as rich as you want it to be, and they're not buying more time. Mm-hmm. So it gives you the ability to use your time the way that you want to do it, instead of being, at the mercy of anybody else other than maybe my wife. That's other than that.
But so now let's talk about how you arrived there, right? So, some people, like I say, have, some limiting beliefs, like maybe money is the root of all evil, or I never had money, so therefore I won't. Do you have any conscious recollection of what your paradigm around money was when you were getting into trouble at 18, maybe when you were making 60 grand a year working for Dave?
When I was a kid growing up, we didn't talk about this a whole lot, but I've told many people and talked about a lot. I was addicted to drugs. And I was an intravenous heroin and then cocaine user. And life changed for me when I was in my pretty much late 20s, almost middle late 20s. And at the time, money represented, as a young adult, the ability to buy drugs, basically. It was a means to an end. And that's one of the reasons why I think, people say, well, did you ever think you're going to be successful? Or did you think about all these things then? The truth is, I don't think I cared. I just didn't, it wasn't like a priority to me at the time. It was like, in a way, this is a very negative version of what you did, because yours paid off tremendously, where mine was just doing drugs and making bad mistakes. But in bodybuilding, you have to be single-mindedly focused, right? So as a drug addict, you have to be single-mindedly focused to get heroin, because you're sick. All you can do is getting heroin, and it doesn't allow you to do anything else. So my young adult years were focused on getting drugs. So I didn't have money didn't mean anything for me other than being able to get more drugs. And then once I got out of that and focused on following my passion, following my passion wasn't about making money. It was about, basically living life and being able to do something that I enjoyed and being able to pay the bills. I always liked nice stuff. From my mom will tell you, I wanted the $100 pair of Michael Jordans. I wanted the Jordans. I've always wanted that stuff, but I never thought it was important to me, or I never did the work. Really, maybe it was more like I didn't want to do the work to get the thing that I thought I wanted anyway. When I was a kid, I had a poster of a Lamborghini on the wall, and I had this Lamborghini Countach, and I remember it, and I always thought it was awesome, and I wanted one, but I didn't really want one. I didn't actually want to do the work to get one. I just would love to have had one. Right. I never even saw one in real life, but I just knew that car looked cool, and I wanted it. So I think. Go ahead, Ben.
Do you think business has become similar to chasing the high, like chasing the next fix? Yeah,
absolutely. So for me, you have to be honest with yourself, right? If you are honest with yourself, you can kind of have the ability to realize who you are, right? Sometimes you just need to get comfortable with that. Sometimes you need to figure out how to change it. Sometimes you need to just accept it. So for me, I'm past the point of changing some of these things. I have embraced the fact that I have a very, very obsessive personality, And instead of focusing on negative things, I rather obsess about positive things and do good things with that gene, that part of me. So yes, definitely that obsessiveness that was chasing heroin or whatever is still there. And instead of chasing, something negative, I'm definitely focused, because I do get a lot of satisfaction out of the business stuff. It's fun for me. I don't look at this. So I'm here at the office, and if I had no children and no wife, I would be at the office all day long and all night long. I would be extremely unbalanced person, extremely imbalanced. So I know that about me. And thankfully I have a wife, Darielle, and 3 little boys that pull me out of here every night. Otherwise I'd just be here. So that's something I know about me, and I'm good with, because I think that's what drives me personally to do so many things that other people wouldn't want to do. And it doesn't mean you can't do that without this gene or this thing, this internal thing that I have about me. But for me, it's definitely something that pushes me to keep wanting to accomplish, because it is not about money for me. And it's less and less now. The more and more you're able to achieve financially and the more financial freedom you have, it can't be about money, because so say you have $100 million, right? There's nothing now at this point that you couldn't buy with that $100 million, and then if you have $1 billion, then what would be the reason to get $2 billion, right? Or $4 billion, or, at some point, it can't just be that. You have to be enjoying what you're doing. You have to be loving it, or there's no point. It's just, there needs to be something other than that, right?
Right. So for you, I'm going to ask the question, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask the question is, do you feel like it was moving away from pain when you started, or was it always moving toward pleasure? So,
in moving away from as a business person?
Yeah. Well, in life. So some people are moving away from I don't want to be broke. I don't want to feel like I'm inadequate. I don't want people to think I'm a whatever, like a negative, versus I've always wanted that aspirational thing and I'm moving toward that. Right. So in the beginning as a bodybuilder, maybe you're like, hey, I just don't want to be fat, or I just don't want to be skinny. And then eventually it turns into, hey, I want to be Mr. Olympia. So I'm curious, at any point, was there ever a negative moving away from, or was it always like, no, I want to be great?
Always positive, going towards a positive.
Yeah.
I never felt like I didn't grow up poor by any means. Even the times that I personally had no money, it was my own mistakes that caused it. Right. I've had all this adversity in my life, but it was almost all of it was self-imposed adversity.
It always is, right?
Yeah, it always is. Well, for Kai, right? Kai, I'm using him as an example. He was, had a mother who had some mental issues. He had a father that wasn't as totally absent, and was put in a group home at a very young age and had a lot of bad stuff done to him as a kid. But he doesn't fall back on that saying like, hey, this is the reason why I can't be successful, right? He has used that to motivate him. I didn't have those kind of things. I didn't have any reasons to be like, well, I shouldn't be successful. I always thought like I could. One of the things I was told as a kid a lot is that I was underachiever. I was told that a lot. And I always took that as a compliment, because I was like, well, that means I could be really good, as opposed to, I was always like, ooh, I'm underachiever, So, because I would be a C+ student, and people would be like, you should be making all A's. And I'm like, that's great. Like, because I'm not going to put in the work to do that, but at least I could if I wanted to. So I was never, I think that's that knowing that I had something in me that could be was enough. So it was always moving once I decided to move in that direction, we was moving towards, achieving something new and exciting, and then finding that goal and then going to the next thing.
One thing I really admire about you, man, is the balance. Again, this is not the right word. I know you said you're not balanced, but the balance you seem to be able to achieve between actually keeping a very happy, successful family at home and the personal development that, you say you read a lot. You said I think you said you still continue to read a lot, and managing a massive business. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of manage that, the balance between those things, if it is possible.
Yeah. So I just recently, I've been working on one of my new sort of like weird obsessions. You will like, I think, is flexibility. So I am not flexible. I'm terribly inflexible, right? As a bodybuilder, it would have been smart for me all these years of lifting weights to stretch. I never, ever did.
Everyone needs to stretch. Everyone.
I never did. So I've heard that plenty of times, and I started having some back issues, and my left knee started bothering me. And when I got it checked out, the doctor said there's nothing in there that was wrong. Like, they didn't think there was any issue, but it was bothering me. Yeah, it was bothering me every day. Like, I'd be like, ugh. And so I have a few physical therapists that work for us at the gym, and I said, hey, you want to check it out? And so he was kind of feeling my leg, and he had me do some stuff. He's like, hey man, you realize you're like incredibly inflexible. And he's like, your IT band is super tight. It could be pulling your knee off to the left side, and it could be causing all these issues. And I'm like, huh. And so he looked at me, had me stand, looked at my shoulders. He goes, this shoulder is really pulled forward. Let me see your range of motion here. And I did it. He's like, oh, you're really bad in a bunch of places. Right. And I'm like, okay, so what do I got to do to fix it? He's like, well, I'll come to the office, and we can do 90 minutes of stretching and mobility stuff twice a week. And if we do it twice a week and commit to 90 minutes twice a week, we'll fix this. And so like now I can like touch my toes, which sounds like no big deal. But for me, I've never in my entire life been able to keep my knees straight and touch my toes.
That's great. How long have you been doing that?
Making progress. What's that?
How long have you been doing that?
4 months or so.
Good for you. That's awesome.
So this gentleman, I only bring this up. Well, it shows you how obsessive I am to do this kind of thing. Because most people will be like, or you do it by yourself. But I know enough about it that I know I couldn't accomplish this kind of thing without help. And I do stretch on my own a little bit also every day, but not like this. So anyway, as he was working on me, Felipe, who's the guy who comes to the office, was a PT, he comes to the office. He asked me about that. He goes, so right now you're starting this gym in Nashville and you are running the gym. I'm not really running it, but I'm owning the gym here in Boca. You're running this business. You are writing the book, right? You're in the process of selling part of the company, going through diligence to sell a minority share of the company. You are raising 3 little boys, going home every night. You are reading books, hours every day. And what else did he say? He had a whole list. And he's like, you're doing all these things. He's like, how did you do that? And don't you feel burnt out doing it? Aren't you getting like it's too much? Like you're waking up. Also at the time I was walking a lot. I was doing the walking like me and you. You walked with me for a good 7 or 8 miles, whatever we did. And at the time I was waking up early to walk. So he's like, so how do you do this? So you start walking at 5 a.m. You're going to bed at 1 or 2. How is this possible? And you must not be long until you're going to burn out doing this. And so the truth is that all of that came over a long period of time. It didn't just happen where I wasn't like one day I was working for Dave Palumbo, editing videos and doing a radio show a few times a week to now I'm doing all this, right? It was a buildup over a decade of adding and building up. So the balance part and actually doing this, it feels very easy for me. It feels, it doesn't, I don't feel burnt out at all. And in fact, when it slows down, I feel like, what the hell? I'm like, I need to be going. If I have nothing to do, I feel like there's something not right.
Right.
So, and so when people say, about relaxing or whatever, that feels more stressful to me to sit back and like hang out and just not do anything. You've told me yourself, disconnect, put your phone away. Like that stuff, not having the stimuli around me of things I must do, to me is harder for me than doing the thing that Felipe was like, how's this even possible that you could be doing this?
Perception of it is big, right? Like do you perceive your work as stressful or not? Do you enjoy what you do or not? And man, the walking for you, as much as that's another time consuming activity, it's massively helpful for your recovery. People don't acknowledge, like if you're walking 8 miles a day, every day plus, the support to your aerobic system, the support to your autonomic nervous system is tremendous, especially because most of it, I believe, you do outside, which is huge. If everyone just did that, their tolerance to stress goes up. It's this idea of resilience, right? You can subject yourself to way more stress. So keep that up. Don't lose that.
I'll tell Darielle you said that. She has not, but it has moved past the point of where she is like approving of it, because it is a long duration now. But I've been trying to continue. Like when I went on to FitCon, I kind of doubled up. So I think the outside part is to me, I feel like the walking outside is such a key, because you can do it on a treadmill and it doesn't, I don't feel the same. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah.
So from the level of the autonomic nervous system, even just the simple panning of the horizon with your eyes left to right is going to be very calming to the nervous system. And being outside and seeing the sky, seeing the green is innately very calming to your mind and your body. So it's important to know. So man, you brought up Kai, and I want to talk about that. I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about that. There's been a rumor he's coming back to Olympia. Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, Kai lives here in Boca. He moved for his first time ever out of Brooklyn, which is especially depressing now from hearing his description of it. I already thought Brooklyn's depressing, honestly. Just my experience being there and all the grays and browns, and just like already now you add masks and curfews and everything else he's dealing with, and the amount of driving he did to go to the gym and back. He's going to New Jersey, and then where he lived, there's no parking, assigned parking. So he'll drive around and look for a parking spot. So when he's going to the gym twice a day, which is what he was attempting to do because he didn't have anything else really going on, he was going twice a day. He's spending 4 or 5 hours in the car every day. So it's like his life sounded so terrible to me that when he came here and started, like he stayed for a few weeks, maybe stayed for a month initially. I was like, how can this guy go back from being here in Boca to go back there? And the answer is he couldn't. He was like, I'm not doing it. So he ended up closing up shop and bringing everything here. And he lives about 2 minutes from the gym, maybe 3 minutes from the office here. I see him every day. He's literally, he likes that he is like the mascot of the gym now. I mean, he's at the gym. He loves that. He thinks that's like great. So he's like there 8 hours a day without exaggeration at the gym. So he's training right now. So he's basically his kind of split is he does 50 minutes to an hour in the morning of step mill, and then 30 minutes of abs and stretching. And then he will rest here at the gym, eat a meal, usually change all his clothes because he's soaked through from that. And then he will do weight training, usually for 2 hours or so. Goes home, eats, rests. Sometimes a lot of times he comes here to do content and work with the video team. And he's doing his own podcast that we're kind of pushing for him. And then he will go back to the gym at night, and then he'll train with Blessing and Quentin. And they'll do like the crazy screaming and like the super intense training and he's done a great job, man, for Blessing, because Blessing is such a bombastic trainer where he's like, there's very little mind and muscle connection. He's just moving incredible weights. And Kai is the opposite of that totally. All about feel, contracting the muscle. And so they've really been great. So Kai is now out of his comfort zone because they're making him use way higher weights because he doesn't want to get beat by the young guy.
Right.
So, but he won't allow them to throw the weight around. So like, for example, they went from barbell rowing, like Blessing and Quentin, barbell rowing 500 pounds, 495, for 10 extremely sloppy, crazy reps. They did it. I mean, I couldn't even budget at all. So it's crazy they're doing it. But now they're doing 365, 405, but they're actually contracting. Now, right. Kai on his own, he'd be doing 275 for 30 or 40 reps. So there's this real cool synchronicity that these guys have came together and created this thing. So Kai right now is training, without exaggeration, 8 hours a day of actual like doing something in the gym.
Right.
He is eating about, as crazy as it sounds, about 8 pounds of chicken, fish, and meat of some sort a day. And it's insane when he's eating. It's crazy how much food this dude consumes, and also like maintains how he's looking. And he's about 300 and I think it was 308 pounds in the morning, in crazy shape. So I can't say 100% Kai is coming back to Olympia, but I can tell you that he's not doing this for nothing. So this is not just for Kai to have fun. There is a point to what he's doing. So I can certainly know that I want Kai to compete. I would be very happy and excited to see him compete. And if and when he does decide to do that, it will be very, very well documented if it were to potentially happen. So
love it a lot. What's the future of bodybuilding, man? It seems like there's a huge shift happening. Like a lot of the other older guys, when I was competing, are all gone. Yeah. There's this kind of young cohort, and like most of them, I have no idea who they are. And it's only been like a couple of years. This is very interesting. What do you think is going on? What do you think the future of bodybuilding looks like?
Yeah, there are a lot of, in a way, I think that's really positive in the sense that like there's all these young guys, because there's this huge drought of young guys. Like I didn't see anybody. There were like years and years where like nobody knew has any potential for being really good.
Right.
And now you're starting to see, guys like a Blessing or a Hunter Labrada, there's a bunch of guys that are come out that have real potential. So like I'm hopeful, and from the fan perspective, because I'm still a fan of bodybuilding, I'm hopeful that there's more excitement to come. I like, people have asked me, because Blessing talk shit, friendly shit, not like bad, but like more like almost like a Conor McGregor, a fellow Irishman, like kind of like that. And people say, "Oh, what do you think of this? Should he stop?" Or people say, and I think it's great, man. Bodybuilding is kind of boring, So like, if he can make it entertaining and have a character, I mean, think about all the excitement. Some of the best moments I could think for you weren't even on stage. It was messing with these guys.
And I always wanted to do it, but everyone always got so butthurt about it. It's like,
it's true.
It's all just fun, right? Like, it's like,
yeah. Look, if it's mean spirited, that's a totally different thing. But yeah, there should be more. But you're right. People got pissed off at you for being like having any kind of personality, messing with anybody at all. And he's getting Blessing's getting a little of that, but
That's
I
okay.
told him, look, do it.
Do it. Going. Yeah, totally.
The only thing he's got to do for Blessing is he's got to back it up. So if he gets on stage and gets destroyed, he's gonna look pretty silly.
Yeah.
And so I think there's no shot of that, but he's working with Chad also, so should be interesting. So I like that there's all these young guys. On the flip side, because there's all these new divisions, it's got to hurt the amount of quality, because now it's so hard to be an open men's professional bodybuilder. It's a very, very, very hard thing. Better than anybody how hard it is to do. So if you have a good physique, how many of the guys that might do bodybuilding are now doing classic or men's physique or whatever?
Yeah.
It's got to hurt the talent pool,
because it's a quicker path to the stage, right? Like for me, like, people don't see the 10 years that I put in before I ever competed. And without that, I wouldn't have been the person that I am. And I think people are just missing that opportunity, right? Everyone wants instant gratification because I want to get more likes and I want to get sponsored. And nobody had a clue what I was doing for 10 years. And then I showed up at the North Americans in 2007. And, everyone's like, oh, like, this guy's got a chance, But I think that's what people miss. And I hope eventually the young demographic gets mentored on this reality of, like, maybe it's even people like yourself, Aaron, who can support the athletes in a way that allows them to focus on training and not have to just constantly be chasing the external gratification. I get the dynamic balance of, like, you got to post, you got to be there, but you also don't have to sink into the necessity of needing it, right? You can post, you can get the likes and the followers without having to just, like, be addicted to it and constantly have to measure up to it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's the social media age has some real pluses and minuses. That's for sure. I mean, for me, it'll be a long time till Asher's got a cell phone and he's posting on Instagram. Daryl has an account for him now. I would never let him be on there doing that, because it's definitely asking for all kinds of issues. And if you're a bodybuilder who already may have some issues on body image or whatever, and maybe it's not everybody by any means, but a lot of people have self-confidence issues, and then you're on there getting criticized for bad calves, or your whatever is bad. Like, guys, it's tough to handle too.
Yeah. Aaron, you got one of the best podcasts out there. You got some amazing guests. Tell our listeners about the podcast, where they can find yours, maybe Kai's, and then a little bit more about where they can find your amazing products at Raycon.
Sure. Well, Raycon1.com is our website, and we do a large part of our revenue for about now, as we get with other bigger accounts. We're getting gets less as we get bigger and bigger, because you can't grow the e-com as fast. But a large part, about 30% of our revenue now, 40% of our revenue comes from direct to consumer. So we also offer all kinds of cool deals in there. But you can buy the products on Amazon, and I mean, everywhere from, we even have products on two Total Wars in Walmart now. It's the number one pre-workout in Walmart, to military bases across the world, GNC and Vitamin Shop, of course, and grocery stores, and we keep adding on. So nobody will have a problem finding Raycon products, that's for sure. But in the site and everywhere else, we're constantly putting out content, and you can Google us and find us everywhere.
The podcast.
So podcasting, we have a lot of cool stuff that we did that we need to restart doing, like Silky Science, where Eric and I talk about the science of bodybuilding supplements. And then I did the readiness report with Eric, myself. You were on there recently. We're kind of taking a sabbatical from that because time constraints. I was doing that on Thursday nights, and that's one more night that I wouldn't be spending with the kids and the family. So,
but you have so many great episodes in the archive. People definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, we had all kinds of great guests from Ben here all the way to General David Petraeus, Roger Stone, to a whole bunch of congressmen, senators. I mean, we had a lot of people outside the bodybuilding industry. It gave me an opportunity to talk to people that I wouldn't otherwise be able to get on the phone. You talk to Robert O'Neill, who killed bin Laden. I mean, we had a whole lot of interesting people on, and it gave me a lot of cool opportunities to get to know people.
Awesome, man. Aaron, I really appreciate your time, man. Next time we're going to do this in person.
Yes.
And have some fun and go get some great food, get you healthy. Yes. Man, I always appreciate your time.
Of course, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
That's a wrap, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Muscle Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Pakulski. Hopefully you enjoyed my conversation with Aaron Singerman. Hopefully you saw some value in my conversation around cardiovascular fitness. If you did, if you're interested in joining the Muscle Intelligence Nation, soon to be called the Muscle Intelligence Academy going forward, I'd love to offer you guys a bonus for picking up hypertrophymastery.com. Anyone who signs up in the next week is going to receive our Fat Loss Kickstarter, which is an amazing 28-day guide walking you through how to build your aerobic fitness, how ultimately to design a cardio program. And I'll show you guys exactly how I integrate aerobic fitness, steady state cardio, and high intensity cardio, and ultimately all the life.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Muscle Intelligence. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with at least one person you know. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Ben Pakulski and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.